So I'm going to be selling my Nissan Leaf. Now, I'll get into the reasons why I'm going to be selling that in another video. But for the purpose of this video, I want this to kind of serve as a complete overlook of the Nissan Leaf from the years 2018 to 2025. Now, of course, there is a new 2026 Nissan Leaf, a third generation. But for this video, as I've talked about the Nissan Leaf in other videos in the past, I want this to kind of be a compilation of all of my thoughts in one place, as well as some other things that I didn't get into in past videos. So let's go ahead and take a look at a full tour of the exterior, the interior, the features of the vehicle, the overall performance, and what it's like living with a Nissan Leaf, and if I would recommend picking one up. So let's get into it. So this obviously is the Nissan Leaf, and we're going to take a look at the exterior here. So this is the SV trim, basically your sort of middle trim here. So as you can see, you're going to have your halogen projector headlights. Now, the daytime running lights are only in the top of the line trim, unfortunately. They might have been available as an option for you to kind of manually upgrade depending on your trim level, but generally it's not going to be available unless you go for the top trim. Now, this isn't a perfect condition Leaf for you to see the full exterior because, well, got a nice little love mark there, got a couple of swirls on the paint. Honestly, I just gave it a wash this morning and it already looks bad. So the condition of the paint is just not very good. We have another dent there. We have another dent on the other side as well. And so taking a look at the rear, you can see that it has the sort of floating roof design right over here, as well as obviously your Leaf badging there, your SV badge over there, and then your zero emission over there. So basically you're going to see that zero emission on almost every single side of the vehicle except for the very front, obviously. Now with the SV, you're going to get these upgraded wheels, which I quite like the design of these wheels. I think that they suit the black exterior very well, and I'm really liking the design on these. And overall, what you can see here on the exterior is obviously this is a smaller hatchback, so it's not terribly large. It fits into parking spots great. It does come standard with a backup camera as well. One thing that I'll also mention as we head on in is that you do get unfortunately not the best quality door handles, but that aside, you're going to get smart key access on the driver side and the passenger as well. Now opening this up, you're going to see nice very wide opening here to be able to easily head on in. You're going to have all of your door controls here on the side. So you're going to have your windows, your window locks, your door locks, and your mirror controls, as well as obviously your door handle. You're going to have nice cup holder or nice grab handle right here, as well as a pocket right down here that can also hold pretty decent sized bottles. I can fit a large Tervis like that one right there, right in that door holder pretty easily. So as you head on in, you're going to see your access to your charge port, which is right here, which we'll go ahead and pop now. You can also turn off if you have a scheduled timer for your charging. You can turn that off so you can get a full charge, and then you're also going to get standard the heated steering wheel as well. So let's go ahead and take a look actually at both the charge port and what's under the hood. So fun fact, you actually can't open the charge port unless the vehicle is off. So after troubleshooting and figuring that out, we discovered here is the J1772 level 1 and level 2 charging. So this is going to be your pretty standard charging port here that you'll be able to do, you know, any kind of at-home or hotel charging. And then here is going to be your fast charging CHAdeMO connector right here. So here's where you're going to be able to do your DC fast charging at public charging stations. CHAdeMO is unfortunately a dying standard, but we'll talk about that in another video. Right here is what is under the hood. So right here is where you're going to see all of your drivetrain components, your 12-volt battery, you know, your windshield washer fluid right over here, all the different things that propel the vehicle forward. Now, obviously what this means is that there is no frunk. So unfortunately, you won't have additional storage space going on here, but there's pretty ample storage in the trunk. Unfortunately, no sub trunk, but pretty ample storage space in what you can use there. Now, another thing you'll notice is that there are no hood struts to be able to basically open, you know, one-handed. So you do have an actual prop rod here. So just kind of one thing to keep in mind. This is a more entry-level EV, so you're not really going to find some of these creature comforts that you'd expect in some higher-end brands. So I'm going to go ahead and start up the car and put on the AC on low. I don't want to mess with the audio too much, but it is crazy hot out. So I'm going to go ahead and put my foot on the brake and press the start button. So right here, you're going to see your main display here, where you're going to have a lot of useful information in this screen. We'll get into that in a second, as well as your pretty standard speedometer right over there. You have some nice controls right here, right on the steering wheel, that you get used to honestly pretty quick. Has all the different control aspects that you would really want out of a vehicle. Obviously you have your turn signal and your headlight control right over there. The SV does come with automatic headlights, which you can see right there, as well as your windshield washer controls for both the front and the rear. So the head unit right over here is the main head unit that you're going to have to be able to control your audio, navigation, all of that sort of stuff. You do also have wired CarPlay and Android Auto with this as well. I do have an aftermarket wireless CarPlay head unit right here, but we'll just go ahead and just ignore that for now. If you want to see a video on this head unit, I can go into that. It's a wireless head unit that you can go and install into any other vehicle. But for the purpose of this video, let's just stay on track. So we have our head unit right over here, where we have access to a bunch of different things. So you have your smartphone connection right there, your climate control, where you can see really how your climate control is laid out, but you can't actually control it from here. This is just a visualization of your climate control that you can control right down here. And then you also have your Bluetooth audio that you can kind of jump straight into. So whatever your audio source is, you can cycle between Bluetooth audio, auxiliary input, which is right down there, USB input for your iPod, or well, really just USB, Sirius XM, FM and AM radio. And then coming back here, you can look and see charging stations that are nearby. Now, this is all sort of pre-downloaded information, so you're not really going to see new charging stations that are showing up. You're really going to see whatever was the last updated information that was put on this SD card that's right in here. That's where you're going to see all the navigation information and everything like that. So honestly, I wouldn't rely too much on the charging station information here, as well as the navigation. I wouldn't rely on that information because it's not going to be up to date. It's going to be up to whenever the SD card was input with that information from the dealership. You might even be able to upgrade that yourself. But for the purpose of just staying up to date, it's far easier to use your phone for Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. You can also see your energy usage here. So you're able to kind of see some simple information like the usage of the electric motors themselves. You see your driving range. You can turn off climate control to get an estimated 8 more miles of range. And then you can see how much your climate control right now is using. So obviously the higher that I go, this is starting to ramp up. You already saw the other systems shoot up as well. And we'll go ahead and kick that back down. But you did see that the climate control did kind of shoot up. It was a bit below the 1.5, and now it's just kind of resting in the middle. And I'm sure it'll come back down because we just lowered down the fan speed for the climate control. You can also select your settings here for camera, so you can have predictive course lines when you go in reverse, which I'll go into this a little bit more. Actually, I might as well just go into it now. So here is your gear shifter. So you have a little indicator right here to tell you exactly what to do. So you just press the P right here for park, just press it down like a button. And then if you wanted to go into drive, so as you can see with the arrow, you're gonna go over and down, and now we are in drive, as you can see there. You can also go directly over for neutral. You actually have to hold it to go into neutral. And then you actually go over and up for reverse. So now we are in reverse, and there's also a little backup chime that you might be able to hear. Might not be able to hear it that loud, but that's us in the reverse there. You do have your predictive lines here, so as you turn the wheel, you can kind of predict where the vehicle is going to end up. This makes parking a blast, and backing out of spots, if you nose into spots normally, it makes parking and backing out very easy. It's great. This isn't the only vehicle to have predictive course lines, but it is good to have that there. And the camera quality is honestly not the best. But it's serviceable. If you're coming from a vehicle that doesn't have a backup camera, this is great to have. So I'm going to go ahead and go into park and get out of that. You do have your next and previous tracks right there. You have just a standard back button, which is nice to have a dedicated back button because you never know, where on the screen you're going to be able to go back on. You can just jump straight into navigation by hitting the map right here. You can also quickly adjust the brightness and by either raising the brightness for daytime or dimming the brightness dramatically for nighttime. So very quickly, you can just by the press of a button, physical button as well, you're very easily able to adjust that. So have a lot of good stuff there. You can also adjust sound system settings as well, so you have different things there, speed sensitive, volume. I will say that the sound system for this honestly sucks, but I don't know if that's because my particular vehicle has like a speaker that's like nearly blown out. It's not a good time, so we're gonna go ahead and just kind of pass on judging that too harshly. All right, and so in your main display here, you're going to see you have a lot of different things you can do, like a digital speedometer. You're going to be able to see your state of charge as well as predicted range, your odometer, the gear that you're in. E-pedal is controlled by this little mark right here, so you can go basically toggle it down to turn off e-pedal or toggle it on to turn on e-pedal. Basically, that's going to be your one pedal driving. So that's what's going to apply the regenerative braking whenever you take your foot off the accelerator pedal. You have eco mode here as well. Really, all that this does is just slow down your acceleration, your throttle response. So that way it just takes longer to get up to speed. It might do some other things with climate control. Honestly, I'm not too sure about that. But really what I found is that this really just dulls down the car. If you're somebody that doesn't really try to accelerate very much, then it might be a good option to kick on and basically eke out a bit more range. But yeah, it's for me, honestly, I just keep it off. Helps to keep the vehicle a little bit more lively and accelerate up to speed a little bit quicker. It's not, a fast car by any means, but I also don't want to dull down the car and make it a little bit unsafe to be able to get up to speed if I need to. So this screen here is honestly pretty easy to control. So you have the controls right here on the steering wheel, and you have a little menu right here to tell you where you are at in the system. So I can just go down and quickly see my tire pressures. I can see that I need to fill up my tires. And then I can also see the average kilowatt hours that I'm getting, which honestly isn't the best representative because lately I've been driving it a little bit harder than I would normally do, but I can very easily get over 4 miles per kilowatt hour. Honestly, over 5 if I just stay right on local city roads. But once I get on the highway, obviously that uses a bit more energy, and so that's why it's kind of bringing down my average miles per kilowatt hour. Then you're also going to see, this is basically your drive computer from the last time that you've reset it, and you can very easily reset it by hitting that OK button right there. And you also have chassis control right here. Really, honestly, I don't know that this really does anything. Active trace control, okay. I don't really notice too big of a difference with it on or with it off. And then we're going to go here. So here's where you're going to be able to control. It will adjust the speed based on the traffic in front of you. So you can set a max speed of, let's say, 80 miles per hour. And then if there is a car in front of you, then it will slow down. You can decide how many car lengths that you want to have between you and the car in front of you. So if you want to have 1, 2, or 3 car lengths, then you can adjust that by just hitting this little button right here. And that will allow you to choose, how far away that you want to be. You can turn on your cruise control right here. And as you can see, after hitting that, now we have 3 bars right here. So that's going to show us that we want 3 car lengths between us. and then I can also adjust that by just hitting that button or just continuing to hit that to cycle back up to 3. So I'm going to turn off the cruise control right there. And you also have your automatic forward collision warning. So this isn't going to automatically apply the brakes, but it will chime at you. As you can see here, it has a forward collision warning and it will make an audible tone. And so it's basically just going to let you know, hey, there is something going on here. There's a car right in front of you that you're almost going to hit. You might want to pay attention. So that's really going to be it for the sort of main display here. And then if you go over on the right, you'll see there's actually a ton more menus as well. So you have, various different settings, and I won't bore you by going into every single one, but you do have a lot of different things here that you can customize. Here you can see your energy economy, so just your average fuel economy there. So basically you can see how you've done over the last hour or so. You can also see a compass right here. You have your music control right here, or at least your music display. So if you're listening to a song, you can see the song information right here. You can also see that on the speedometer page right here with the Bluetooth audio, just right over here, right next to it. You'll be able to see the song name. And so I honestly just keep it on this display right here. It just gives me all the information that I want to see at a moment's glance. And then here you can see the state of the vehicle. So you can see the battery temperature, you can see the battery capacity. This is predicting that there has been no degradation. And honestly, I can say, I'm sure that there's physically been some degradation of the battery, but when I charge this thing to 100% and I put it in eco mode and I have the climate control off, I can very easily see 149 to 150 miles of range, which 149 miles of range is the estimated range for this 40 kilowatt hour battery. Here you can also see your range information here. You can see a power meter as well as your regenerative braking meter right there. And you can see a charge time estimate. So if you needed to charge it all the way up to 100%, you can see on 3.6 kilowatts of charging, you will get there from the state of charge of 92%. You'll get to 100% in 2.5 hours if you are charging on a slower 3.6 kilowatt hour charging speed. Now, taking a look at some of the other things here. So we have our climate control settings like we've talked about here. You do have automatic climate control, which is great to have. You also have heated front driver and passenger seats. So these are great. They are very, it gets very nice and toasty. And you do obviously have your low and your high settings right there. So you can choose to warm your butt as warm as you would like it to be. Just taking another look around, you do have your glove box right over here. Really just looks like a standard regular vehicle. Do have some car seats there and some kids junk, but that's really everything that you're going to see there. Now, the one problem that I have with the rear is that giant center tunnel. So unfortunately, there is not a lot of leg room and just being able to like kind of easily traverse from one side of the vehicle to the other without having to jump over that. So it's not the best for a kid's car line drop off and pickup, but that is just something that you'll have to kind of deal with if you decide to pick up this particular vehicle. Taking a look up here, you have your sunglass storage, which is right up here. And you also have your SOS for Nissan SOS connection right there. You also have your light control for when you open the doors. You have your map lights right here, which are pretty nicely appointed, and you can turn on both front lights as well. Does not unfortunately turn on the rear light, but that light will turn on when you open the door. So that is pretty much everything that you can see from the vehicle here. Now, taking a look at the rear, you're going to see that unfortunately there are no rear vents either down there or in the pillar. Now, I believe there might be rear vents available on the top trim, so take that with a grain of salt. But you can see here it's kind of a tight fit. So I have the seat set for me. I am 6 foot, right at 6 foot, and there's unfortunately not a crazy amount of room here. I have the passenger seat put up pretty far up in advance because I don't usually have somebody sitting in the passenger seat, and so when I'm taking the kids to school, I have that set up so that way they can kind of easily kind of go back and forth between the front seats, or at least, you know, past the passenger seat there. There is no middle armrest, unfortunately. And you can see that each door does have a cup holder down here, as well as a grab handle, just for some extra storage. Mat pockets right back here behind both seats. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the trunk. So taking a look at the trunk, you can see, honestly, a nice bit of room over here. So you can really fit a lot of things. It's a little bit dirty because I've used this to pack a bunch of pavers and sand and different things that I was doing for home projects. So it handles a lot of storage very well. You can get a little carabiner right here just to kind of hold different bags. And I believe this is something that is built in. So it's a little storage bag here just to kind of hold your loose things. Unfortunately, there is no subfloor storage. So you can see right down here that is where you would have your spare tire normally in like a Nissan Versa, for example, because this is pretty much built on the same platform. But yeah, unfortunately, no extra space, but it's a pretty ample amount of room that you have right here in the rear. All right, so what do I think about the Nissan Leaf, and how has it performed over really about the year that I've had this one? I really do like the Nissan Leaf. I think that it's a great vehicle. I think it is the perfect entry-level beginner EV that really everyone should experience. There's a lot to love about it. Honestly, I think the smaller battery pack, which this is, the 40 kilowatt hour battery pack that does about 149 miles of range, I think that it is honestly very good and doable for many people. So if you're using this as a regular commuter vehicle to get to and from work, or just traveling around town, not doing very long distance trips, then honestly, the smaller battery pack could be great for you. Now, if you go on the occasional trip where, again, nothing too crazy, but if you go on maybe a 200-mile road trip or 150-mile road trip or something like that, and you want to have just a little bit more range to where you don't really have to do fast charging, then the larger 62 kilowatt hour battery pack would be better for you, because I believe that it does about 220 miles of range. So that's going to give you quite a bit more range and performance. Now, keep in mind that the range that is listed is not the same range that you would get being on the highway. So that is something to keep in mind. 150 miles of range that I would get in this vehicle does not translate to 150 miles of highway driving. Highway driving uses more energy, obviously speaking, and so unfortunately the 150 miles of range is what they say is a mix of city and highway driving, but honestly, it's mainly city is what I've found. And so that is just something to keep in mind there. Now, if you do need to do public fast charging, keep in mind that this is a CHAdeMO connection. So that is unfortunately a dying standard. Fortunately, unfortunately, depends on how you look at it. Honestly, for the better, because CHAdeMO is limited in very many ways. It's a dying standard, so there's not very many charging stations that are being put in that are going to include CHAdeMO connections. Of the ones that do currently have the CHAdeMO existing connections, those may not be serviced as well, they may not be as reliable, they are fewer and far between. So planning out road trip maps is not going to be the best, because you can't always rely on what PlugShare or some of the other EV charging apps might say. And the other thing too about the Nissan Leaf is that there is no active thermal management. So with that being said, if the battery gets hot, that's going to severely limit the performance of the Leaf. It's going to mean that if you fast charge it more than twice on a road trip, once or twice, depending on how hot it is in your environment, then the battery might get a little bit too hot, and to prevent any kind of big issues with the battery either degrading or catching on fire, things like that, then it will automatically derate the charging session. So you might be able to get a maximum of 50 kilowatt hours of peak charging performance, but once the derating happens, that 50 kilowatt hours might derate to maybe 10 or 20 kilowatt hours, and now you're stuck sitting at a charger for a very long time, almost slow charging your vehicle. So it's really not going to be, it's not designed to be a road tripping warrior where you're just traveling across the whole United States or whatever country that you're in. So that is something to keep in mind there. Now, of course, can you do that? Absolutely. Just be prepared to set aside some extra time or just be prepared for any kind of weather affecting the battery performance. So there's lots of different things that you have to keep in mind if you are considering going on road trips with something like the Nissan Leaf. But if you're just going around town or doing your average daily commute, this is going to be more than enough to satisfy your needs and give you some nice creature comforts like automatic headlights, which even in 2025, not all vehicles actually have automatic headlights. You also have, standard backup camera, which I believe is a safety thing that is now required. But you also have your heated seats, your heated steering wheel, and some other niceties as well, fog lights, different things like that. So really, honestly, a fairly well-appointed vehicle. I mean, it's nothing that's really going to blow you away, but if you're coming from something older, like in my case, I came from a 2013 Camry that didn't have a backup camera, that didn't have Apple CarPlay, that didn't have heated seats, at least the trim that I had didn't have any of these features. So coming from a vehicle that doesn't have these creature comforts, this felt like an elevated vehicle and a nice upgrade to be able to experience. Now, I do want to touch on the app as well. So the Nissan EV Services Connect app is honestly terrible. There is a free, unpaid version of the app, and then you can also pay, I believe it's $9.99 or $6.99 or something like that to have additional features unlocked. The sad reality of it is, though, that all of the features, even in the premium paid version, just kind of suck. So you don't really have the same level of control that you would like to see that you can see with other vehicles. So unfortunately, you can't really set your climate control very easily. There's a couple, it's kind of buried deep in there where you're actually kind of scheduling your climate control cooling down from the app. But the other thing with the pre-conditioning your vehicle is that you unfortunately don't have a whole lot of time. So it'll automatically shut off after about 15 to 20 minutes, somewhere in that range. And so unfortunately, if it's really blisteringly hot out and you set it to the coldest temperature, which I believe is 60 degrees, which is fairly normal, it'll shut off after about 15-20 minutes. So it's not going to cool down enough for it to actually reach that temperature, and it'll just automatically shut off. So unfortunately, there is no way to turn off that feature, and so you're just kind of stuck either having to get into a hotter car or a cooler car if you're wanting it to warm up, or just having to constantly, submitting that request to cool down or warm up the vehicle. You also don't get a whole lot of information as far as like the charging performance when your vehicle is charging overnight, or if it's charging at a public charger. You also don't get information as far as how long it's going to take to charge your vehicle based on your specific charging situation. It does give you different estimates based on the speed that is available, for level 1, level 2, and level 3 fast charging. But they're estimates and they're not very accurate. And if you don't pay for the premium version, really the only thing that you can do, at least that I've found, is the climate control and starting a charging session. Every time I try to do anything else that is outside of those two things, I get an error message saying that this service is not available, pretty much because I'm not paying for the premium service, which I'm not going to fault the app for that. I'm choosing not to pay for the premium service, but just keep in mind that your options will obviously be pretty limited. All right, so just bringing this video full circle, do I recommend picking up the Leaf? I do. Honestly, if you just are aware of what you're getting yourself into as far as the limited charging performance, the fast charging options, just various things to kind of look at with the Nissan Leaf, the different things that I've talked about in this video, if you're aware of all those things and they're not an issue for you, if you primarily charge at home, you have a smaller commute, then this is honestly the perfect beginner EV or a great second vehicle or something like that. It's a great vehicle. I've had a great time driving it, and I'm really looking forward to my next vehicle, which I'll reveal in another video coming soon. But for now, the Nissan Leaf has been fantastic, and this generation has been an awesome generation, and I really like the looks of the exterior. I've talked about it before in other videos, but it's a great vehicle and it's a great bargain, especially with the amount of range that you can get over the previous generation as well. So let me know what you think about the Nissan Leaf down below. If you want to see more full in-depth videos on various different EVs, make sure you drop a comment down below, and I'll catch you in this next video right here. Take care. Peace.